welcome to the A.D.K Rock and Metal channel and a Behind the Kit with today I'm joined by Michael O'Neill.
Hello. I
Hello.
enjoyed the theme tune you had just now. That was great. Loved it.
You did? The new theme tune, yeah?
Brilliant theme tune. It was amazing.
I'm going to put the worst one on now for the editing.
I hope it's in MIDI.
It's from some weird Humpty Dumpty shit going on.
I love Humpty
Just saying
Dumpty.
incest over and over again.
I mean, it's going to be very incestual.
It's incestuous, yes. Welcome to the incestuous A.D.K channel today. Right, well, thank you for doing this today.
Thank you for inviting me.
Hopefully should be a lot of fun. We're going to talk a lot about your early days of drumming, how you got into drumming, etc. But of course, we need to talk about the bands, who you're playing with. So you're currently actively playing in, I believe, 3 bands.
So I'm definitely actively in Dead Flesh.
Yes.
In Hellgrind now.
Yeah.
In All to the Sky. In Elysian Divide.
I forgot about All to the Sky. Do you know, I had completely forgotten. You remember this?
I've got to practice with it tomorrow.
That's just because I haven't seen any gigs from them in ages.
No,
So,
so we've been working a little bit more on some newer recordings.
Okay,
so it's
so that's
just kind
first-
of like it's one of those where because they're a little bit further away from me, you either end up having to dictate the practices to whether or not we're going to just do a set, or are we going to, because they love to change the set all the time.
right, okay.
Which is, I think with them actually it does work quite well, but it also confuses me because I get used to a certain order of the songs. So in a new set, I'm like, oh, the next song is not the one I think it is. Crap.
Okay, so All
I
to
end
the
up having to
Sky,
practice
yeah.
that a lot. But yeah, we've been doing a lot more music in the background. So I think
4.
4.
Now, is this a competition between you and Richard then? Is this what this is? Is it trying to see which one of you
I was
can
in
be
all
in
the
the most
bands
bands?
before he even started being in bands. So like, you know, you can
He's trying to catch up.
You can sit back and relax, my friend. That he, you know, we can remember the time when there's a Bullstock that I opened the stage, played a few bands in the same one, and then closed it with a cover band.
Right.
So I think I played I played 5 sets over the whole weekend.
Just what you wanted.
was-
You loved it, though,
I
didn't
loved it. I absolutely loved it. Oh no, yeah, no, Skag Bunny actually is still. I mean, I know Thumper from Skag Bunny. I'm not in Skag Bunny. Yeah, so they're so 5 actually.
you? So 5 at the moment.
5. I think there could be more.
It could be more.
I mean, if so,
You're still looking, though.
So
if anyone
Dirty-
has a band that needs a drummer.
because like Dirty Mike and the Boys, musically we're not doing too much now, but
Yeah.
I've started doing a lot more video work with
I
them.
have noticed.
Yeah, so because there's the
Go
whole
on, plug it.
comedy-
Go on. You can plug it. Go for it.
There was a whole comedy aspect that I desperately wanted to do with the band for years, and now we're finally doing it. I think because we kind of just taken a back seat with the music, so it just gives us that room that instead of having a practice where we go and play the instruments, we're now just seeing what kind of silliness comes out. They've always made me laugh, so I always feel like we should have captured some of that, more of that than we have, and you know we're having a go at that, and we'll see what comes of that. So it's probably 5 playing, maybe 6 if you want to include the fact that I'm still doing something with another band, even though it's not musically.
So, where do you find the time for all this?
I have no life, so
I was going to say, I wasn't going to say anything, mate. But,
it's either do the bands or go home and maybe watch. I mean, I do like watching TV, and I also like playing games. So, but that's really all it's getting in the way of. So it's like, well, I might as well do something I really enjoy. I very much enjoy playing drums. It's a lovely distraction from the endless ticking of time toward the inevitable.
so the question I now have to ask, same as the question I actually asked Richard when he was on the channel, is there a priority order in in your band? So if all the bands were offered gigs on the same night, which is the band that you have to then say that's the band that I've got to play the gig with?
I remember this question because I watched that one because I was intrigued to see what his answer would be, and he played it very politically, and I was like, I like that. I definitely have had priority bands though, unlike him with his political answer. There would be particular bands at points where it's either the band or the gig.
Yeah.
Because when I was in Outright Resistance, I had them as my priority band, but then Zompok got a tour in Europe, and we had one gig in a pub, and then I had 4 dates with Venom Inc. Venom Inc. wins.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, obviously, once you get whoever gets the booking first, that you then got to say.
oh no,
well, I'm
Outright
not
had the
available.
booking first.
Yeah.
I cancelled it.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, for me it totally depends on if I'm just playing another pub.
Yeah.
I'm going to go play the Venom Inc. tour.
So let's say you've got a gig booked with Dead Flesh,
Yep.
and then Hellgrind come over and say we've got a show there, and it's a larger show. We're doing a support slot, but it's going to be a support slot for Obituary.
I will be playing the support slot for Obituary.
It's like fuck off, Dead Flesh. Sorry, guys. Later.
I feel like anyone who knows me though will probably understand that I don't do political answers. I do the very obviously direct. Yes, I will be doing the one. I don't care we booked it. If it's in a small pub, I will be going over there.
Yeah.
But then I think I don't think I've necessarily hidden that from all the bands that I'm in either. I think they all know that about me. So I think they know if they want to keep my attention. Like, and we'll all be working together as well. And I've definitely got ideas I like to put into it. But we always go. They know what I want to achieve, and I think most of the time we all want to achieve the same thing. So it's like the bigger we get, the happier I'll be about it. The less likely you'll find that I want to cancel stuff. Simple as that.
And with this many bands that you're playing in, I have to question what you do around creative elements. So from a writing point of view,
Yes.
obviously in most bands it's obviously the guitarists tend to put in most of the contributions as far as riffs and so forth.
Yep.
Keeping it different styles. Now I would say that Elysian Divide and Dead Flesh, very different styles. Elysian Divide and All to the Sky, closer.
Yeah. I can see that.
Hellgrind, Dead Flesh could be a little bit closer.
Yeah, I see that.
So
Yeah.
how much of that is your involvement in your writing, or is how much of it is people kind of going, this is what we want you to play?
Yes. So definitely, because I saw what you said with Plues as well.
This is why it's good to watch previous episodes to find out what I'm going to ask.
But it's also no, because I thought Plues' answer was really, really interesting. That how he will think about how to make them different and have them separated, and I've never thought like that. Mostly because I'm not technically good enough to. So, so I will just play whatever comes into my head, and I have borrowed from previous bands. So there will be there is at least 3 or 4 different beats. I know I play in more than one band, but I won't play it more than one song. But I've gone, oh, that was a good beat. I'm going to remember that, and then I've gone back to that later when I felt, oh, this riff really needs something. Hello, I remember that beat I played in the other band. That was really good. Let's use that again. And so I just kind of will work across like that. But it's also, I really wanted to be a guitarist. Although I do love the drums and grew up wanting to be a drummer, but I love the guitar, I love the sound of guitar, I love riffs. Riffs get me going. And so I don't ever really think about what drums should I play. I think about how does the riff sound. Most of the time, I'm lucky enough that I'll get drum parts back from whoever it is to say this is roughly what we're thinking of. Because I did have it once in Outright when I first started there, and Mike gave me a music, and he went, put whatever drums you like in there, and exactly what Plues said happened, which I then played the drums I thought I'd play, and then Mike went, that wasn't what I had in my head, and so I was very annoyed about that. So I said, like, right, okay, give me a guide of what you're thinking. I might not always agree with it, and I might change it, but at least I understand the atmosphere or the vibe that you're looking for in that moment, and then I can adapt myself around.
It's like the ballpark. You need a rough idea of
Is
it double timed? Is it half? Is it loose?
Yes.
What?
And if I want to
that
change
same riff can be played a million different ways on drums, depending on how you interpret it. Each drummer, we know that if we were to take a track with no drums on it and play it to you and play it to me without us hearing it, and put us into 2 different rooms and ask us to play the drum pattern, we will play a different drum pattern depending on our own styles.
Yeah. But there's also
sometimes it will force you. There's a good example I think is on the Drumeo website where they're getting drummers to listen to tracks they've never heard before and play. Was it Chad Smith did The Kill by 30 Seconds to Mars, and he pretty much nailed it with never hearing this song because he listened to it and he knew what worked. And actually when you listen to it without the drums on, that's the kind of vibe. It's that free bar beat, and you're like bam 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 bam. That perfectly works. And there's the embellishment parts afterwards, but the initial vibe, you couldn't put a double time beat over it or a blast beat or anything. It wouldn't work. It would just feel completely out.
Yes.
But there are when you're talking about 4/4 patterns where it's just down picking chugging, you've got a lot of room you can do with that.
Yeah, and you definitely have more space to play with it as well.
Yeah.
But it's also fascinating when you then watch different genres of music. So, because I didn't do lessons for ages, I was just very self-taught. Then eventually I took a lesson just to be like, am I playing this right? And through that, there's a guy called Matt Seymour, and he really exposed me to jazz a lot more than I'd let myself be exposed to, because I was just a bit like, jazz is shit. And then Buddy Rich is who you put me toward. And then you're watching what I would refer to as the gravity blast beat being done by Buddy Rich decades ago, and he's calling it the one-handed drum roll.
Right.
And you go, oh, okay, clearly... for me, that was a massive moment of going, right, okay, if I'm going to be influenced by stuff, I shouldn't just limit myself to the style of music that I'm playing or I'm enjoying, and maybe I should open myself up a little bit more to what's going on around me. And then, funny enough, status quo as well, there is a song called Roll Over Lay Down. In the middle of it, they play what I would call a hammer blast beat. It's not, because he's just using it as a build-up, but he's twatting away on the ride and the snare, and he's getting louder and louder and louder, and it's all on the 16th notes. Well, that's what I would now refer to as a blast beat.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting that even in the 70s, they were just using different things to move songs along, and now that it kind of opened me up to a bit more, okay, maybe I don't have to just go, what kind of crazy metal do I need to do in the metal band, and what kind of crazy rock do I need to do in the rock band, and can I just do what I would do? So if I'm influenced by, is it going to be, as you said, does the riff speak to me in a particular way on stuff I know how to play? Should I just lean into that? And that's why I don't really think too much about whether or not the genre is different or not. It's more, but I also do like my bands being of different styles, because it allows me to experiment without having to... It's not necessarily experiment, but I could play something a bit more freely. Like in All to the Sky, I can definitely lean into my rock enjoyment a bit more in that. And then in Dead Flesh, I can definitely lean into my death metal enjoyment. And then you get nice mixes from everywhere else, because I do very much enjoy Nightwish. So as much as John will hate hearing this, Elysian Divide very much lets me do that.
Because it's... One thing I would say, listening to the bands that you play in, with a lot of drummers, you'll hear the drummer and you'll know that it's that drummer playing in the band. Weirdly, in your case, it's not in those four bands, because, and this, I mean this in the nicest way, because you could take it the way of going, you mean you don't
You're
understand?
terrible.
I don't have a unique style. But what you do is you serve the song.
Yeah.
So with a lot of drummers, you hear, and we talked about this in the Nick Blues one.
Yes.
About overindulgence of drummers, where they put a fill in every second bar just because, and they want to do something like, it'll be a standard 4/4 down chicken, and they go da 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 da, and you're like, what are you doing?
Yes.
And it's showboating.
Yeah.
But doesn't sell the song. Now, for what I remember from all your performances is you're lock in the groove, you hold that beat through, and then you put your fills in when they need to have fills, or their accents and dynamic points when they're needed to signify changes.
Yes.
Or bridges.
Yes.
Not midway through a verse when there is no point, unless it's a vocal pause where you have something where you want to play off the bell or something to do a little signature that you're halfway through the verse, there was a pause, and you're coming back in again.
Yeah.
But you don't do it over the top of the vocals, which is great, because I have to say, if a drummer does that, that switches me off instantly. I walk away and I'm like,
on that. 100%.
Fucking annoys me.
It's funny again. Who was I talked to about this? Hellgrind, funnily enough, because the gig we just played, Mask of the Suffering, I can hear a blast beat at the end, because Paul is like really going for like the Mask of the Suffering, and I'm just hearing blast beat. But I haven't played it live at the gig, because we haven't done it enough times where I was happy with it. And I need to know, if I'm going to blast there, does it work? Or am I dominating the riff too much? Yes, in my head it suddenly sounds like maybe that will work. But before I put that in and show people, I want to play it enough times in the room. Can we hear the blast first off? Are you all playing in time still? Are you happy with how that sounds? Can you feel where the riff's meant to be? Or have I now taken you out of the song?
Yeah.
Are the two guitarists now all over the place? And actually all it is just a mess.
Because it's a really interesting way we talk about that, especially when I've watched bands at Club 85 where bands have gone down that route of blast beats. So there are a couple of ways the bands can get around this whole whether it works or doesn't feel right, and the ones where it probably gets away with it easiest is where the drummer's doing blast beats, but the guitars are almost open.
Yes. The Morbid Angel.
Well, effectively, bam, big open chord.
But Morbid Angel do it perfectly
Yeah.
and in a brilliant way, and it's why it works is they have a nice riff which is filled in with drums, and you're just, or even just loads of double kick, and you're just sitting there going, yes, this is heavy.
Yeah, it's when you get that blast beat going on, you've got all that double kick, you've got all the snares rattling away, and then the guitars are trying to keep up to that pace.
Yeah.
You can just about get away with it in a gig if you're on the floor, because in the floor you're in the moment. When I stand at the back and watch the gig, I am such a critical git. I'm like, that's fucking shit, stop it. And the reason I've looked at it is you could probably get away with it there, but when you put it on the album, you've got to be so precise. And if you can't replicate that live by being that precise, and you're never going to be that unless you are someone who gigs day in, day out, you rehearse, unless you're a big touring artist who is basically playing that all the time, your muscle memory is never going to be that locked.
Yes.
So don't overcomplicate songs. Is my kind of thing I say to bands. Just strip it back, work out what works, serve the song, and relax, breathe. It's not all about you as a drummer showing how big your dick is. It ain't about that, is it? Really, come on.
Well, I have the smallest dick in the world, which is why I can't play any of the fills. But
You're lying. He's actually only got one drumstick. He's using his cock for the rest of it.
But it's the bit I think sometimes even I forgot about until I got used to it was that we are the band's metronome.
Yes.
And so as much as we, also talk about clicks and stuff, the reason we talk about that is they're meant to be playing to us.
Yeah.
And if I do not recommend anybody plays a blast beat how I play a blast beat, because technically it's flawed, and that's why I don't teach anybody, because I've just learnt it because I'm a massive fan of the band Deerside, but their drummer is incredible, and has flawless technique. I didn't see that technique, though, when I first listened to the band. I just heard loud snare blast beats. So I tried to replicate a loud snare blast beat. So I do what Nathan from Countless Skies and Denali, he refers to as the body blast, because my entire body will be shaking, because I've got so much arm in it. And as Nick was explaining the last one, to get really good, fluid, speedy movements, the more joint you can use and the less arms, the less everything else you can use, the faster you can go. But I've always pushed myself on I want the band to hear my blast beat. I don't want to be tickling the snare, I want to be whacking the snare. Gojira's drummer, he can also do a fantastic blast really loudly at great speed. So whatever technique he's doing and whatever Blues is doing and whatever anybody else is doing where it sounds good and is also not hurting you, do that. Don't do mine.
See, I find one of the issues I find with playing something like a blast beat or anything where it's really close is when I'm playing, I tend to. It's always a fluid movement with my arms. So when I'm going da dum bum ba ba, so I come across the cymbal and it's back down to snare da da. So my arms are always doing this movement.
Yeah.
So I'm down. So if I do an example, I'll turn this mic off for a second. Right, just turn your mic off for a second.
Cool.
So if I'm playing, it'd be like. I like a spider monkey. Yeah. But you then get drummers like. So when the drummers have got their arms really close, they can probably get these real fast momentums. Whereas if I'm there, I'm kind of getting this.
So funnily enough,
fluidically movement going on.
Funnily enough, what you're talking about there with the body blast beat. Again, it's not a technique. Please don't try this out. But I'm always thinking about trying to have my arm on. So I've got my seat quite high because I've always used to find. I know everyone talks about having that kind of angle when you sit down. That's meant to be good, or a little bit lower because then that way then you're in control. But I always found that I wasn't in control and I was going to fall off the stool. And I came to a point where I found if my butt was above my knees, my spine finally engaged. And I was now sitting on the stool, and the stool took the weight, which means I can now happily move my feet around, and I don't feel like I'm going to fall off. So in that, then I found if I put my arm or try and rest it between my the join of your leg and your hip.
Yes.
Effectively is where I'm trying to put it, and then I'm just trying to move my fingers up and down with my wrist also coming with it, and that's where I just keep going like that.
So you're doing kind of more of that rather than a
yes, but
hinge on the arm, isn't you?
But I will also do arms. So as much as I'm thinking I'm doing that, I've even seen videos of me, and I can see
that looks very weird from this angle, by the way.
I can see videos of me doing it. Oh, jeez!
I told you he only had one drumstick.
But it's that's what I was trying to do in my head, because I found it was easier for because I used to get so much like pain in my arm from doing it out here somewhere.
Yeah.
So I would do it there. But then I watched the guy who used to drum for Belphegor. He's got a DTA, so it's Drum Technique Academy, and I watched a few of the videos on there. And he talked about, although I can't do it, but there's like a particular movement for the blast where he'll rest his index finger for a bit by holding out here, and he's using his pinky the most, and then he'll bring it round to this kind of grip, and then he'll have it rest, like he'll use his index finger and rest his pinky. And he found if he kept switching between the two, and that might be the wrong way round, so definitely watch his videos, but the two grips he'd switch between while playing the blast. There's no he's not like stopped playing the blast and come back to switch to grip. He's literally in the middle of the blast switching grips.
Yeah.
But he found that it would stop tensing up his muscles so much and be much more relaxed, which is I do a completely opposite thing, and I have my veins popping out.
Because what sticks are you using?
I've got Vic Firths. 5B.
5Bs, lovely. Whereabouts do you hold your stick?
I'm useless. Again, another thing that you definitely shouldn't do is hold the sticks how I hold them, because I like them really low on the stick.
I'm even lower, and I only realised this the other day, that I actually have the base of mine rubs across the bottom.
Oh, really?
So I hold my. And it was only when I was playing the other day that I found I was almost. That's where I was holding my stick.
So if there's any drum teachers
long.
watching this right now, they are going to hate the
Yeah.
both of us.
Fuck you.
You're meant to be finding the fulcrum where
Because
it naturally rests.
I should be here so that
And
I can do this.
It's so far away though from where I feel comfortable, because then if I want to hit that. Although, yes, I can now, but I'm like up here somewhere. I'm just, sometimes it feels like it's too far away. And so, actually, if I get back down to hit, again, the self-taught side of me, that's the issue, is that it just feels much more comfortable down there. But,
Because I find if I have it here and I'm playing, then I find that my reach to hit where I want to hit on the cymbals is I'm there.
Yeah, you and you overextend
Now,
your arm.
now I've got a full-on reach to do, and if I want to play like a real breakdown bit, I'm like. Whereas if I'm here, I can sit back with my backrest here, and I can actually swing. And now,
and
I've got a little bit of bend there, so I'm not on full reach. Now you could say, well, bring yourself forward, but I've got fucking long legs. Which means if I go any further forward, I'm going to be basically stabbing myself in my fucking dick, trying to hit the snare drum while I'm playing on the cymbal. It ain't working.
But then again, what you're doing there as well, I find that's the more common thing too, is that being further away from the kit. I am one of the few people that for some reason feels really comfortable on top. And again, that also ruins technique.
That's playing in small, but do you know what? I reckon that is playing in small gigs and small rehearsal studios that does that.
Yeah,
because the amount of times you get used to playing on a kit like this, where you're sat back on it, and then you turn up for a gig, and you're in this tiny corner, and you have to climb over the kit to get on the drum, and you're like that. You're like, fucking hell, I've got to play the fucking gig.
It's
like
funny
this.
you speak of that.
But you're right at home. See that would
exactly...
drive me up the fucking wall. That I would hate that. I'd have moved. If this had been our rehearsal studio, I'd have come off there. I'd have put Kim up there and gone, "You could be on the stage. I'm coming down here," because I like space. I like room.
Yeah, no, I'm so used to it being within, but I also I change everything all the time as well.
Yeah.
So I'm constantly. I think where I've put the cymbals so far is where I like them today.
But next week it might be different.
Yeah, tomorrow with All at the Sky, I'll be like, what is All at the Sky? I need to slow down how fast I'm playing stuff, so I might raise the crashes a bit more, because it means that I'll have more time to come back and slow it down a little bit. And then when it's faster again, I might lower it down a bit further. So I was like, I'm a bit close to the kit. So there isn't really... I'm probably the most unorthodox and definitely shouldn't follow kind of drummer ever, because I don't have a set way of playing. I don't have a set way I like setting up the kit.
Well, as Nick said last week in his behind, it's like what works for you works.
Yeah.
As long as you're right on it. I mean, I asked him some bits around some technique that I was having real problems with my double kick.
Yeah.
And so it was great to him to talk about it because it was like,
Yeah, because I saw it at the end when he's having a nice little chat. Yeah.
yeah. And I was like, well, because I was so used to having my knee up and pushing down on the pedal on the ball of my on the front ball
Yes.
of my foot and doing that. And he was like, well, just do that. Put your foot down. And I'm like, it just doesn't feel. I feel I have less control, but actually you do have more control. But in your head, you think if you're stamping on it,
Yeah.
you have more control. But as soon as you start getting faster, you're like, no, this
Well,
is.
even as you get to the real fast bits, which I'm useless at, as we'll see.
Yeah.
You kind of then want to get to the point where your ankle is the main thing that's moving, and it's not even really your leg. It's you're just going up and down with your foot. But that I have no. And what you said, as much as I don't play. I play with shoes, and I know you were talking about socks because you prefer the feel and how it will, and the way you can feel what it's doing.
Yeah, the dexterity on your feet.
Yeah, and it's funnily for me, I used to love playing with chained pedals because of the latency that you get with the chain compared to a direct drive. Where the direct drive would feel like it's sticking to your foot, and the chain, and I still have my chain pedals for All the Sky, because although I'm now on a direct drive, because it's just easier now that I've got more used to it to play the fast stuff. I don't have the same body or the same kick in the bass.
Yeah.
Whereas with the chain, I could and it was so much different when I'm playing with All the Sky that I can really feel it punching through. I'm like, yeah, there we go. Half the time, that is literally just a basic bang cha bang cha. So I want that making a lot of noise. I'm not trying to tickle it. So it's.
Because it's interesting we were talking about the double kick and the mythology and stuff like that. Because it was with. Yeah, fuck it. I'm going to talk about Nick Blues.
Yeah, he's so good. He is so good, but he's so interesting though because he's not one-dimensional with what he's doing. He's so. I think what he talks about with his history of bands is what really helps him have such a unique sound to how he. Even that song he played, immediately opening up with like twatting about on the cymbals. Would never have thought of doing that in a million years in anything to do with like metal or stuff like that, because it just doesn't occur to me that's something I would do in metal, and yet his brain didn't care.
That's where he went.
I want to open up on like loads of cymbals. I'm going to hit this one over here that he said he maybe has to take down every now and again. And you're going, okay, there's loads of speed, but then he's going to give you that cha, 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 cha.
Well, this is the thing I find really interesting about talking with drummers is that a lot of guitarists and people will look at. See, if you think about guitarists, you'll go, this guitarist is really good in this style, this is really good in this style. When they look at drummers, they go, well, drummers are all the same. You really just, it depends on what level of technical ability you've got. And you're like, well no, we're not.
That's not how it works.
That's not how, drummers have their own influences, they have their own styles. Everything's down to muscle memory. So you get used to playing certain rhythms, certain beats. So when you might be able to play a blast beat, but if you haven't played it for 5 years, you're not going to be able to play it straight away. You've got to reteach yourself that muscle memory because it's not.
But it's even what you said of how individual it is as well. Because when I did only like 2 grades in the end, and I got chatting to one of the guys who was grading me, and he said drums is so fascinating. Whereby I'm sure the other instruments have this as well, but he was intrigued by the fact that you could have 10 drummers play the exact same notation on the exact same song that you're being judged on and have 10 different approaches. Even though you've been told what to play, you've been told what speed you're playing it at, and you've been told how you need to play it and what cymbals you use, and yet you still have a different approach.
Okay, so we've just had a small little break there while we changed some battery packs over. Right, so anyway, we kind of skipped all the first questions like I normally do. We just kind of went straight into other stuff there, but... Fuck it.
Welcome to a conversation with me.
Definitely sworn a lot more today. I don't know why.
Oh, it's just
fuck. I don't know why. Right, we should go on the Wayback Machine back to your early days. So when did you first start getting into drumming?
So my mum bought a drum kit before I was born. And
well, she was really thinking ahead.
So she was really like...
She's like, you're going to be a drummer. Fuck you.
He's going to play the drums. But no, she's just, for some reason...
Give me the money. Make me the money.
You will
get out there, little drummer boy.
So she had a drum kit. So when I turned up, I was just like, oh, okay. Drums
as she came out, she's like... She had a drum kit at the bottom of her ankles. Like, there you go. Get you on that kit.
So this is drums. This is drums.
She get your little baby rattles. You know, like the ones out of like fucking Karate Kid too.
It's like, yeah, I'm not here for the karate. I'm here for drums. Drums. So I was very fascinated by them as I was growing up, to the point where I think apparently my parents tell me the story. There's 2 main ones where I would put toys in the bass drum to make sure they brought it back down, because they'd always put it in the loft for a period of time, because we had a terrace house, so when they bring it down, they bring it down for a bit and then they put it away again.
Yeah.
And so apparently I would hide toys in there to make sure that they would bring it back. And then I was so engrossed into the idea of drums by the age of 4. We went down to London and we were watching the parade go by from the guards by the London Palace. And apparently when the drummers come along, I went, they must be the good boys because they're allowed to play the drums quite loudly, I pronounced to the entire people around us. So I obviously clearly had a fascination for them at the time. But it didn't really, although I liked it, I think the reason I ended up playing them as I got older is that my dad plays guitar. And so he'd go down and jam for a bit. And so I was like, oh, drums. I can play, and then Dad plays, and then we're playing together. Isn't that an interesting idea? And so then I would do that for, I think, it was before I'd learned how to use the bass drum. Because apparently my dad said I was very confused that when I was happily just using my hands going, yeah, we're amazing, Dad. Look at how good we are. And one day he then tried to show me how I then use the kick at the same time. And apparently I was like, that's clearly impossible. No one can do that. Like, it's only just hands.
Right.
And so I then led on through that. But it's only when I got to 16, 17 did I really get fascinated with drums, because then I got a flats kit. So although we had like a kind of a kit in a terrace house, obviously it's quite loud. And as terrace house is connected to many other houses, they can hear. So they weren't overly impressed. No matter how many tea towels you put over it, still loud. So we then got a flats kit, which is a bit quieter, and that's when I got my first double kick. And I become fascinated by metal at that point, to the point where in chemistry lessons, I don't remember anything about chemistry, but I learned 2 things there. Number 1, hand farts. And number 2, I would always try to make sure I got these, the high tables, because they came with the stools. And I found that at the very bottom, you get like a little... of the stool, you get a little bit where you can rest your foot on. Yeah. So you can have the heel of your foot resting on the stool. Yeah. And then your toes on the floor. And I would just spend hours every chemistry lesson doing that and getting a little bit faster. But it wasn't really doing much, but just got me used to the idea of how my foot would move. And then when I finally played double kick, it just made sense because I had put time by accident into
You'd already started training your muscle memory, hadn't you?
Yeah. And so it was a lot easier for me to jump into that. And I just quite liked the speed of it all. And then it wasn't until I was 22. So I got diagnosed with Crohn's around then. And I was in and out of hospital quite a lot. And I think as a means to forget about that, I then started going, I want to do bands, because I don't know how long I have to do bands, which probably also, even though I've been doing this for a while, affects how many bands I'm in. Because I'm probably always thinking, I probably don't have long, so
hedge your bets, go for as many as possible.
Let's just do everything now. Let's make sure I cover everything now, even if it doesn't. I've got to the age where I'm definitely not even worried about it getting anywhere. It's not. I've missed that boat, but I want to make sure I've played everything. That if it does get to a point where I physically cannot play the drums anymore, then I can go, that's okay. I did loads, and I'm happy with that. Yeah, and it's funny how that probably drives me a lot more than I realise, and is also difficult to explain to people when they don't have that reason. Because you go, oh, don't you want to rest? It's like, I might not be able to do it tomorrow. What do you mean, do I want to rest? So you kind of run, and forget about what's going on. But yeah, then I think that's when I started looking at bands. That's when I met Mike for Our Resistance, and then I got into Depraved Plague, and that's when I realised I needed to take lessons, because I got so far with making it up, but I didn't actually know the right techniques. I didn't actually know really what I was trying to do or what I was trying to achieve. It was just fun, which is great, and I absolutely still do this because it's fun. Yeah, but there is a point of, as we were talking about the music, and when you're starting to try and be the person who's the metronome to everybody else, and you also want to make sure the music sounds good. Like, I'll even think about if the riff is going up and down in notes, I'm thinking I might want to hit a crash. I will try to hit a crash that associates with the frequency. So if they're going down, then I'll hit the larger crash for a lower frequency, and if they're going up, I'll try to hit a higher crash for the higher frequency, and join them in the music effectively, because I can if I think about it. Yeah, and that's where then I think through the lessons they were able to help me understand I can have a bit more involvement in this than just isn't this a fun bit, and also get taught techniques of where I think I used to play like this a lot, and my drum teacher was a bit like the way I played it wasn't like the French grip, it was just really bad technique and was definitely going to hurt my wrists. So he showed me what I think is called the German grip, where you just switch it around and your wrists naturally move like this. So you're working with nature rather than against. And that's just going to help prolong how long I can play for it as well. So, yeah, it's not really a direct, there was a band that did it. It was more, my mum gave me a drum kit, I got fascinated, and then it just slowly developed from there till I suddenly joined bands.
Because I've always found with the drum lessons for point of view that I've never gone down that route because of I'm a lazy cunt. In all honesty. No, well, what it is I find...
No, I think I get your point though, because I didn't want to have someone tell me this is the piece of paper and these are the rules.
And this is how you need to play.
And I got lucky with all the teachers I had. I had so Matthew Seymour I'm talking about. If you look up, I think it's Fenland. Yeah. So he's up in March in Cambridgeshire, and he's amazing because he's just open to so many things. And he let me turn up. And the first thing I said to him, I don't want to do grades. And he went, that's fine. And they just went with me on whatever journey I wanted to go on. And I had a similar experience with Jamie, who's the current drummer for Earn, and he's down in Watford. And again, I turned up. I was like, I don't want to learn grades. I just want to learn how to be better at what I do now. And he's like, that's fine.
Yeah.
And I think,
and that's probably where I would think.
Yeah, I think got to the point with him where I could turn up, and he had no plan anymore. He'd just be like, "What's pissed you off this week?" And then I'd tell him what was annoying me, and then he'd show me because I didn't like rudiments, and so he was like, "That's fine." And both of them did this to me, where I was like, "I don't want to learn rudiments." They're like, that's cool, and then we'd learn stuff, and then they go, "This thing over here, this is an interesting rudiment that might help you with that problem that you're having right there." And so it would go, okay, right, fine. So I got to see, and they found the right way to deal rudiments with me, which is address a problem I have and see the benefit I would have if I learnt the rudiment. Not just, here's a paradiddle, wasn't that cool?
Yeah. I think for me, when I do this sort of stuff, it's the hardest bit, or actually, it's not really a hard bit for me, it's a hard bit for the guys in bands that I play with. Is they'll come and go, right, I've got this riff, and it's like, we're thinking like, I'm like, you can think it as much as you like, I ain't fucking playing it. Change the riff, I don't care, I can't play that, so we're not doing it. It's simple as that.
But even then, though, there would be a way that you play it, and this is why I find it funny, because, you know, I probably think we both think the same way about ourselves, which is like, we're terrible drummers. But I think drums is the one thing where you don't have to, there's people out there doing amazing technique.
Yeah.
There's people out there doing really great prog stuff. There's people out there who do amazing fills in the stuff that we would probably look at and go, that's a bit much. But it's still amazing. And if it works for what they're doing it in and they're loving it and the people are loving it, awesome. Let them have that. And then I can just turn up and play how I play.
Yeah, so we were just saying about we had to do another pause there due to a battery issue on the camera. But
battery.
Yeah, so one of the things I always think about with bands, and so whenever someone comes to me with, or my mentality towards drum playing, because I think of myself more as a songwriter. So with Tellers, for instance, with the new Tellers album, there are 8 tracks on it. First song, Raising the Dead, was a song I wrote.
Nice.
And then it's pretty much, apart from the vocals and then the solo, I don't think the guys would feel bad if I actually say that pretty much the rest of that was written already. So that was a song I presented to the band.
But that's great, because that's the one thing that I wish I could do, is have the guitar to be able to give some of my ideas. Because half the time, if I get riffs away, one of the outright songs, I ended up going around Mike's for 2 hours to give him an intro to a song, which made it onto the album. But I literally was just going, da da da, yeah, ha.
Was that Mario Bros? Da 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 da.
And then give me the ha, and then he go, no, not that, ha, no, higher, lower, right. That's the note, right. Second note, ha, let's do it. And then it took 2 hours to get 20 seconds of song, I think, in the end, out of my head. Because I couldn't just go, pick
up a guitar.
And,
Well, this is the fit. So there were 3 tracks, which was Witchfinder General, Jack, and Raising the Dead, which I wrote on the album.
That's awesome.
And then I think there was 4. The other 5 were pretty much written by Dan and Mike, and they wrote those songs. and then I wrote my drums to. They basically. What was the other? Oh, a song called Bella. Bella was the weirdest one because Bella was all made up of Mike's riffs. And Mike had when we started the band, Mike just sent me all these little snippets of riffs. And I had this master folder which had all the riffs in. And then I was sitting there trying to come together with songs. And I was like, well, they're out of different tempos, but that riff and that riff kind of work well. So let's put them together. And Bella actually was a Frankenstein of all these different riffs that he'd sent. And I went, here's a song. And I just played a drum track over the top and went, that's going to kind of work. I think that'll work. I just changes some. And that's how we put that song together. But that's how I think. So, for instance, if someone came out and went up to me and was like going up with a riff like, so not a lot of drums would be like, but I'd be going, I'd go half time on it.
Sure, you've heard something else.
I think if they're playing fast and they're filling lots of notes, I want to play less. Okay. I want to have lots of room.
Yeah.
If they're going, bam, 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 I'll be going, bam, 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 I'll fill it, the space.
Yeah.
Unless there's vocals. But if there's no vocals, then I will use some other accents. And that's what I'll be working with the guitarist.
Yeah, it's weird with how I think sometimes even I can do it as well. Get a little bit lost in, because you don't write a song with vocals immediately. So you go, oh, okay, this is a bit long, so I'll do some drum stuff. And then the vocal comes over the top. And sometimes, I think I've done it all at the Sky a couple of times, because Helen has such an amazing voice.
Oh, great voice, yeah.
And so I want to give her the room to just be herself, because it's so much fun to listen to that. I want to be that nice little metronome that she can sit on top of, knowing that there's that protection level. And then when she then backs off is then when I might be a bit more adventurous. So she's got, oh, okay, that's the bit where she's, not going to do too much with this riff. Awesome. I'll have a little play. And then the second she comes back in, right, I'll turn it back down.
You just got to rate it back in again, haven't you? I mean, what was the first? I've got to go back to some of the questions here. We've just gone on complete. We have gone on complete fucking random.
I love it. Today. This is my kind of conversation.
It's just randomised. It's very incestuous now.
So incestuous, which is all again very much the Hertfordshire scene. It's just incest of bands.
It is. It's just a big orgy of incest. So, what do you remember? Considering you were saying that you didn't really kind of start until a bit later on, but what was the first full song that you played from a drum, like start to finish? All the way through.
I knew this question was coming, and I had a proper think about this to see if I could think of one. I don't think there is a particular song that stands out as that's the defining reason. I do have a moment though that's a defining reason, but it wasn't me learning the song. It was me watching the Loading the Weapon tour by Disturbed and the DVD they put out, and watching Mike do the intro before they go into Bound. And there's a fill he does in that intro. And it's not even an actual song. It's just something they did to go into the gig. And that, I remember, just absolutely blew my mind. I was like, I want to do that. And that's where so it wasn't me learning that, though, but it was me seeing that and going, I really would love to be able to do that. I know I've played bits and pieces of songs. I don't think I ever really sat there and learned them, though. So I know I was fascinated by Layla for a bit. Because it's a fucking tune. And then there's even with metal, I think I touched on a bit of System of a Down. I quite like that. I did a little bit of Slipknot. I know I do a lot more. I think really when I got to actually playing songs in full was when I joined Outright, and then we did like actual like Heretic Anthem in full. We then do even like Dead Flesh recently did like People Equal Shit, and then I've even done like Break Stuff by Limp Bizkit was the common one in the end. We managed to put a stamp on it, which worked quite well as far as I'm concerned. I know a lot of people hated it, but it worked well in my head because I got to do loads of double kick that isn't actually there. I don't think I really played songs in full till I got into bands and started playing it that way. But I was more fascinated with writing music and wanting to put something together with people, get in a room, let's do some stuff, or even not get in a room. Half the time at the beginning, without Resistance and other bands, we would go to someone's house and do it on the computer because you can program in drums. So if I'm there, I can program a couple of bits as well, so I don't have to. And then he can then write over the top of it. And then in more recent ones, funnily enough, I've gone backwards as I got older because with Dead Flesh, me and the two guitarists will get into a room and then just go nuts for a bit with stupid ideas. And whatever works, we'll then put onto the computer before we leave, so we don't forget it.
Okay, so you're in the jam mode at that point.
It was weird though, because I think most bands do it the other way around, where they do the jam first in the early stages, and then they start using computers to get older. And then I feel like we started off with computers, and then went backwards.
Because one of the things I was chatting to Kim about this. Actually, I haven't spoken to the rest of the band about this. So
I can't wait for this to come out. Yes, let's talk about it.
Now this is where I get in trouble with the boys. So I had mentioned this. So for this album, obviously, with the first album from Tellers, we wrote the musics, we wrote the tracks, wrote the solos. Kim went away, and then came back with what the stories were. So we didn't know what the songs were about until she came back and went, "This song is called this, and it's about this." And we were like, "Cool, excellent." And we talked about the second album because we thought about the next EP and the second album. So we've got those kind of in our heads about what we're going to do with each of those. The EP is going to be cool. That because we have got a plan to bring this out quite quickly. Again, I can guarantee I can hear the guys already going, "Oh, for fuck's sake!"
Are these
Can
songs
we not
they
just
don't
play some gigs or something? No, we've got another album to do.
are these songs have they heard these songs yet? Or
For the EP, they know what they actually do know what the plan is for the EP. But for the
second album, they're completely new.
well, the second album, Kim had this idea of. Well, she had this idea. She had a concept for it, and I sort of said, "Well, okay, brilliant. We'll go in the concept. I'm not going to share the concept because she might change her mind on it."
Sure.
But we had this idea of a concept, and normally what you'd then start doing is people go off, write riffs, come up with ideas, and you start putting together. And I sort of said, "What if we have the song concepts written out? So we pick 12 titles, and we think about, don't write the lyrics, but have the concepts about what is the story. And then we go into the room and think about it as though you were writing a score for a movie. So you've got the song, you know what's happening in the story. So what's the feeling? Is it a thunderous drum part? Is it fast tempo? Is it feeling like something's coming at them? So do we need to be up tempo? So I said, why don't we try writing it that way? We go in with a different concept every rehearsal, and you go in and go, right, this song, it's a thunderous thing. It's someone who's running away, and this is the story about them escaping. So it's going to have maybe a bit of a galloping feel to it, maybe. So what riff would that fit? And literally write it as though you were writing a movie score. And write the songs that way, not the lyrics, because the lyrics will come later. But we write the concepts of rather than someone going dun, 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 and go, here's a riff, right? We play the drums, right? What would that fit a concept?
Yeah.
And then trying to force, when you're trying like that square peg in a round hole, you're like, it will fucking fit. We'll make it work. I don't know how it's going to work, but I thought it'd be a really interesting way of rather than just jamming, but actually going in there with the idea of going, this song is about an evil entity that comes out of this book. And you're like, right, so an evil entity coming out of a book. How do we start? Well, you can't do it as a happy song, can you? So you kind of have to really think about what you're actually playing straight off the bat. Is it? Give me a creepy intro clean vibe. What could we do on a clean guitar? What effect have you got? Let's try that. And really plan out, and then try to everyone put the pieces together in the studio. Yeah. And take that away. And
but what you've got there as well is a little bit of what we talked about while we were setting up, is that it's funny how with music you have rules, and then you can break those rules, and then you also have people just doing weird stuff because you can. Because it's one of those things where although you have all these rules about what you're meant to do, you can just do whatever you think works for you. And like what Please was talking about with technique and stuff, and whatever is comfortable for you, because that is the one thing that is more important to the aspect of the band and the sound, is do you like what you're doing? Yeah. And are you getting benefits from it? Because if you're getting the benefit of, let's try this technique, and I've got a concept, now let's write to the concept, and it works, awesome. It might not be what other people would think about doing, but if it works, that's what matters.
I think it's just an interesting way of writing us, rather than writing a load of riffs and then making them fit out. Yeah, and just kind of going, this is what that song's going to be about, and then trying to change the concepts to fit the music. Let's get the music to fit the concepts.
Have you started writing any of those songs yet?
No, because we've got to finish. We've got the EP bit to do as well, and
I would be intrigued to see. I will be
intrigued to see how it's going to work. I do. One of the things we have talked about is I have sort of spoke to Kim about it, and she's going to. Do you know what? I swear I'm going to get a frigging WhatsApp message going through. You fucking get. But
it's all right. She won't watch this.
I have.
She only watches the good drummers, like Please.
Or Lee. She doesn't watch it for me or you. But I did say about, like, I'd really like to get like 12 stories. and for her to come up at least with the titles of what the concepts of the stories are, so that we can all start to think and get ideas. Because you might have some riff ideas that you might go, I've heard this title and this is what I'm vibing. Start writing towards it, and then you can bring those in, but not just write a riff and go, I've got this riff, would that fit any of these concepts? I want people to actually use their brains. I know in a band that's not always the best idea, but I do want people in bands to use brains. But
we don't have no brains.
we don't. We just hit things.
We just do wacky.
Right. I think it's a bit time we have a bit of a drum off.
Oh, is it time?
It is. So let's.
I'm
get us
looking
all
forward to
set
this
up.
being the worst drum off of all time. You're welcome.
Let's get to it.
I love it. Okay, here we go.